Good evening. I'm Pittsburgh City Councilman Daniel Lavelle,
And I'm Councilman Reverend Ricky Burgess.
and we welcome you again to Black Pittsburgh Matters. And Black Pittsburgh Matters is a series of virtual town hall meetings affirming a citywide agenda that Black Pittsburgh does indeed matter. Black Pittsburgh Matters means that Black lives matter. We must protect the health and safety of Black people. It means that Black communities matter. We must focus on rebuilding Black communities. And it means that Black wealth matters. We must focus on increasing Black employment and entrepreneurship.
The Black community has been disproportionately affected by concurrent crises, the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic crisis and race relations, and just the widespread dissatisfaction with the state of racial equity in our country, which are both public health crises. Normally, in times of crisis and great change, we'd be coming to you, the Black elected officials of Pittsburgh, having meetings across the city with our constituents, partners, and allies. Since we cannot do so safely in the current pandemic, we are now coming to you in the ways we can using this media platform to talk about what we're doing, discuss policy and legislation concerning Black Pittsburgh. These meetings will be available via Facebook, YouTube, and the city's cable channel. You can contact or ask questions via the Black Pittsburgh Matters Facebook page or email us at blackpghmatters, that's blackpghmatters@gmail.com. And you can contact through our live feed right now. Today, we are joined by Partners for Work for a town hall on employment in Black Pittsburgh, from youth to people with criminal records.
You know, some of the top questions and inquiries we received in our 9 months on this platform are employment related in some form or fashion, whether it's unemployment and underemployment in our communities, whether it's employment opportunities for those with colorful backgrounds, opportunities for gainful employment, exposure to better work opportunities, networking opportunities for the youth, as well as apprenticeship opportunities. In general, many in our communities feel like they do everything right, but are still unable to find the opportunities they seek and have felt mystified by the process of how to break through the barriers to create careers for themselves. And a key tenet to Black Pittsburgh Matters, as we introduce this evening, is increasing employment and entrepreneurship in our communities.
Yeah, employment is especially important in Black communities as the coronavirus pandemic has exacerbated long-standing racial inequalities in the job market, impeded our economic security disproportionately, and grew our racial wealth gap. One of the programs we will be talking about tonight is the Learn and Earn program, which supports Black youth. As most people know, I'm deeply passionate about this program. I sit on the advisory board, and I led the effort in fully funding the program, introducing the legislation that took it from a couple $100,000 grant in funding to well over $1 million of funding a year. Dan, one of the things that I've had found interesting, I'm not sure if you get this, but in my council district, oftentimes when I meet people, especially in campaigning, they think that these jobs that we have, that we can just put them in, right? That if they know me or they call my name, that they can give me their resume. And back in the day when our workforce was huge, maybe a councilman could pull 2 or 3 jobs. But now, given that our workforce is so scarce, it's harder than that. I don't know if you have that issue, but I do have that issue. As I go around my community, they think I should be able to just employ them.
Well, yes, that is often the case where people think, they say, hey, just get me on the garbage truck or just put me in public works. That way I can retire with a pension. And unfortunately, it's not that simple, especially given our lower than normal workforce. But the other sort of challenge to all of this, and both you and I have spent a significant amount of our time on council in our various ways working on employment related issues. So you mentioned Learn and Earn, which is something you spearheaded. And every year that I've been on council have fought to put even more dollars into that. During my time, we've also worked on redoing our MWBE efforts, right? So that we can get more contracts into the hands of small minority owned businesses. Most recently, even with the Avenues of Hope idea of building back Black business districts, using Black business owners, is all about economics. Because at the end of the day, while you and I have also been on this sort of affordable housing conversation, we wouldn't have to have as much of an affordable housing conversation if we were fixing the economics of our community and our people. And unfortunately, all the numbers will show you, I don't know the statistics for your district, but I live in a neighborhood that has an average income of $18,000 and extremely high levels of unemployment and underemployment. And so if we're ever really, really going to benefit our city, we have to be able to grow it economically for Black people. And unfortunately, the same way we can't get them the jobs on the garbage trucks anymore, we also, the reality is the city budget is also one of the smaller budgets in the city. When you compare it to the school district, when you compare it to private, when you compare it to the foundations, to the eds and meds community, we're only a fraction of the money that can go around to our communities. And so we have to be able to partner with, ironically, Partner for Work and others on the private sector to help move people into the private sector.
Well, I think that's right. We have to figure out how to get our people matched to jobs, give them the skills they need, making sure they can pass the drug test, give them the transportation they need, and all the things, all the barriers that are needed for them to be successfully employed and make enough money to raise their family. Without further ado, we are honored to be joined by Partner for Work this evening, and would like to welcome Marquise Long, Director of Outreach and Inclusion, Dr. Kristaline Barger, Manager of Youth Work Experience, Katrina Kadisiskis, and I'm sure you'll help me to say it better, Director of Special Program Projects, and Kathy Riddle, Director of Workforce Innovation. Welcome to Black Pittsburgh Matters.
Thank you all for being here with us. What I would like to do to start is, Marquise, can you, for those who are unaware, can you just give us sort of a high level overview of who Partner for Work is, what the organization does, and in general, how people can tap in?
No problem. So first, I want to say thank you, Councilman Lavelle and Councilman Burgess, for inviting Partner for Work to this, very important conversation. So Partner for Work is the local workforce board for the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. There are 22 workforce boards across the state of Pennsylvania, and we are the second biggest outside of Philly. What we do is really to try to build a comprehensive local plan that includes both, county councilmen, city councilmen, as well as employers, to make sure that whatever labor market data we have, we can make sure that programs are established on the behalf of what employers are saying their needs are. In addition to that, we want to try to build diversified or diverse employer relationships to make sure they can help us also drive how our funding is being administrated and dispersed throughout the county. And then in addition, we want to be public stewards or good public stewards to those funds that we receive from the state as well as from the foundation community here locally.
So I think just from the beginning, could each of you kind of tell us your role in Partners for Works and sort of what you do? I think it'll make the conversation night easier to follow.
So Marquise Long here, Director of Outreach and Inclusion at Partner for Work. I have been with the organization since about 2015, either employed or working with one of the community-based organizations involved with Partner for Work. So a lot of what I do is really to engage the community to understand exactly what we do and who we are, to try to separate us from foundation community because we're not a foundation. We have federal and state requirements that we have to maintain, but really trying to guide those conversations in addition to working with both city and county council and some of our state representatives to make sure that the public workforce system is serving their districts and creating new ideas when relevant. In addition to that, part of my role is to help promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just from an internal standpoint, but from an external standpoint as well. How do we engage employers to make sure that employers are thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion? How are we looking at our own policies? How are employers looking at their policies? So that's really what I do at Partner for Work. So.
Thank you, Councilman Lavelle and Councilman Burgess for this invitation indeed to talk about the Learn to Earn program. So Dr. Kristaline Barger, I'm the Manager of Youth Work Experience. I've been with Partner for Work about 4 years. I started in 2017 as the Assistant Program Manager for the Learn to Earn program. And what I primarily do is a couple of things. My role has changed a little bit over the year, but principally responsible for being a project manager for the Learn to Earn corporate internship program for young adults ages 14 to 24. but then also looking to create ways and linkages so that we can solidify a pipeline from our young adults to the working workforce. And so going from our youth to working with our young adults, connecting them, getting them trained, but then pipelines to employers in a more solidified way for now and in the future.
I'm Dr. Katie Riddle. I'm the Director of Workforce Innovation at Partner for Work, and I support industry partnerships and our outreach efforts to support employers. Along with my role at Partner for Work, I'm also an appointed member of the Pennsylvania State Apprenticeship Council, so I'm the resident apprenticeship resource at Partner for Work as well.
Thank you both so much for having us today. I'm the Director of Special Projects at Partner for Work, and my team develops special programs that try to eliminate specific barriers to employment. So working with job seekers that have criminal records or low-income families, and we help to bring more funding to the region to address those specific needs.
So, Dr. Barger, at the beginning, we spoke about the Learn and Earn program. Can you give us a little insight into, one, how the program functions, two, what it's going to look like this year as we sort of are still dealing with COVID, and then three, how can youth plug in, given that we will be approaching the summer months very soon?
Absolutely. So the Summer Learn and Earn program is a summer youth employment program that's in partnership with the county executive, Richard Fitzgerald, the mayor of the city of Pittsburgh, William Peduto, and Partner for Work, primarily managed by Partner for Work. It is a summer youth employment program that is one of the many summer youth employment programs that engage every summer throughout the United States. Engages about 1,600 young people, at least during the pandemic it has. Engaged in 2020, 1,600 young people. It is a summer program where we are preparing young people to join our workforce. And so we are starting from application to being offered a position, to being onboarded and trained professionally, to engaging and using those trainings that they're learning to engage in their work experience. We are currently in our application period now. And so any young person from between the ages of 14 to 21 can engage in our Learn and Earn program. You do earn a wage as well. And so there is that rewarding part of working and learning. You get a wage, but you can engage with us at www.jobsforsummer.org. That application link is live there for young people. At the beginning of the program, you talked about how important it is for us to have linkages for African Americans. And so the program every year serves about 80% of African American youth throughout the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And so those skills, providing that exposure, that horizon broadening exposure to the various careers that Pittsburgh has to offer. And not just the ones we always talk about, but expanding that horizon and looking at opportunities that young people may not have heard of, and engaging them in that, and engaging their experience in that to make them think about or foster their thinking about what it is that I really want to do, and can I really engage in this? Oh, this is pretty good, I can do it. Just let me know if you had a different question that I didn't answer.
I do. I'm one of the reasons I've been so passionate about the program is because I'm a product of it myself, right? I worked summers for Park and Recreations, being a recreation leader. Can you talk a little bit about the training part aspect of it, that we know that workers need both the technical skills, but also the soft skills, the people skills in order to be successful, and then how, Learn and Earn tries to inculcate both those hard skills and those specifically useful soft skills.
Absolutely. So all of our providers are asked to engage our young people in 21st century skills. And so they're doing training on communication, teamwork, showing initiative, engaging with a supervisor, dealing with people who are different than them. For our young people who are between 14 and 21, it's primarily those 21st century skills. For our corporate internship program, it's called a professional development training. And so that training is engaging them in those kind of higher than the 21st century skills, where you're looking at networking, mentoring, you're looking at entrepreneurship skills. You're looking at those skills that once you get into the door, you're able to maintain being in the door because you are coming to the table and presenting something that gives you a level up in being able to, show yourself as a professional. And so when we talk about introducing them to the application, that's a soft skill in itself, being able to properly read the application and complete the application with the appropriate information, asking for help when you need assistance, and then being able to answer your phone, soft skill, and be able to say, yes, I like the experience that you're presenting to me. I do want to work this particular experience for the summer. And if I could, Councilman Lavelle, you did ask me, what does the program look like in this pandemic time? And so the Learn and Earn Summer Youth Employment Program kept moving right through the pandemic. Last year, we still offer the program. We shifted our program to offer a lot more virtual opportunities, that we're still engaging young people in employment assignments, that we're still engaging young people in project-based assignments where they were answering questions of major corporations and doing research projects. And they were learning how to engage even before the school year started in this virtual environment so that they could get prepared for that. And so this year we are doing the same, where we're able to be in person, we're in person safely. When we're able to do virtual work experiences, we're doing virtual work experiences. They're still engaging with supervisors at major corporations through the corporate internship program and lending their expertise as young adults and all of the expertise and everything that they're learning in school, and helping to continue to help employers be comfortable pushing their mission during this pandemic, even with innovation.
So I do tell people how to apply, because last year and the year before, we actually accepted and enrolled every eligible. I'm real proud of this. We have enrolled and have engaged every eligible young person. We didn't turn anybody away. Anybody who completed their application and was deemed eligible was admitted into the program and given the opportunity to receive the stipend. So tell people how they can apply. Absolutely.
So you want to visit our website at www.jobs with an S, the word summer, the number 4.org. There is a link to the Learn and Earn General application there, and you can do that from now until May 31st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Riddle, can you talk to us also about a apprenticeship program? Excuse me, I couldn't get the word out. Can you talk to us a little bit about your apprenticeship programs? Give us a general sense of the array of which you're focused on and how people can get involved with those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with what is an apprenticeship. In the most basic sense of the term, an apprenticeship is an opportunity provided by an employer that prepares and develops that employer's future workforce. So apprentices can obtain paid work experience, classroom instruction, and then often they receive state and nationally recognized credentials through an apprenticeship. But there's a lot of misconceptions about what apprenticeship is because it has changed so much over the years. One of the benefits of an apprenticeship is, opposed to other types of training that are available throughout our county, is that an apprenticeship is paid working experience. So a lot of times people, say, I don't have time for training. I have to get to work. I need to start making money. An apprenticeship is a great way to do that while you're learning. There isn't time spent learning the skills and then being paid in most apprenticeships. Instead, you hit the ground running, you have mentors, supervisors, and they teach you while you're working on the job. It's really an investment that an employer makes in an employee, which is a very different type of training. And it's often accompanied by classroom training that's also paid for by an employer, which is a great benefit and one that people are often seeking. In Pennsylvania, apprentices are always paid on an increasing pay scale. So when you come in, you'll know what you're making, but then you'll also know that there's a career pathway ahead of you based on time spent in that job. I know that's something everyone's always looking for. What is my career pathway if I start this type of training? And an apprenticeship will already have that outlined for you, so that whenever you finish, you'd be at the journeyman level, or journey level, as I like to say. If you don't mind, I could elaborate a bit more about some apprenticeship misconceptions, which would be that construction is the only option for apprenticeship. And that's certainly no longer the case here in Pennsylvania, but throughout the United States. Apprenticeship has really expanded over the last decade. And in recent years, we've seen a huge increase of employers offering an apprenticeship in things like healthcare, IT, manufacturing, financial services. Most recently, I've worked with some landscaping, facilities maintenance. I mean, you think of it, and employers are deciding now that this is the way to build their workforce. And one other thing to note is that apprenticeship isn't a union or non-union opportunity. This is something that's open to all employers to seek apprenticeship as a training option to help build their workforce.
Can you give us just a couple examples of apprenticeships that may be open now?
Absolutely. I know that right now there are several union trade apprenticeships open now if you were interested in construction. But most recently, we've had a lot of healthcare apprenticeships that have been approved by the state, and I know they will be actively recruiting. And IT is another big one. Financial services is supposed to be approved tomorrow. And these are all things that are coming to Allegheny County. And that's why I've been engaging with them recently. But of course, the list of apprenticeships can be accessed at the PA CareerLink website. And while I can't share it with you on chat or anything, it's just, if you type in PA CareerLink, and you'll be able to go to your county and find that there are 246 registered apprenticeships that are accessible to everyone. Now, when they are recruiting, that always varies, but it's something that engaging with PA CareerLink and Partner for Work can help you to navigate all of those different apprenticeships and when they might be recruiting for their next classes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Katrina, I because I'm an older person, I've done lots of different things. For a while, I was the director of education at the county jail, and we did a lot of in-house training. We did vocational training, we did academic training, yep. And so, Katrina, can you talk to us about the role of gainful employment plays in successful reentry and reintegration?
Yeah, happy to. So obviously a good paying job can really make a difference as to whether someone goes back to prison or jail. And a paycheck is something that's an immediate need for everyone exiting jail or prison. So we see that oftentimes people are quick to go for the easiest jobs to get, which are oftentimes the lowest paying jobs. And so that's why we encourage people to go to PA CareerLink or a neighborhood support center like the YMCA to ask for help looking for those higher paying jobs right away.
Talk more about what to do. Let's say you have a checkered past. We're blessed to be able to span the box in the city. But let's say you're for city government. Let's say you're afraid. What should you do if you have a criminal record, or you have a family member has a criminal record who wants to work? What should they do?
Yeah, so I think, one point to make is that everyone's records are different and restrictions vary by different employers and by different industries. So I can say that generally any conviction you have on your record that is directly related to one of the duties that you'd be performing on a job, that probably will disqualify you from that job. So maybe working with PA CareerLink or another employment services provider to kind of help navigate what job opportunities are available. They have direct relationships with employers where they understand the record restrictions or for employment at those specific employers and industry-wide, and they can help you navigate. I think one tip to always remember is that, when you're in a job interview, it's important to always be upfront about your record so that the employer isn't surprised when they run a background check. And it's really an opportunity to share your story and, kind of create that direct connection with an employer.
So Marquise, at the top, I spoke about the community I live in and sort of high levels of unemployment or underemployment. And there are lots of various barriers to employment. Can you help us talk about what are some of the barriers you see on a day-to-day basis towards employment? Dr. Riddle mentioned apprenticeships with the unions, and for the life of me, and the day and time that we live in, the idea that you have to have a driver's license to me is a barrier to employment, right? But could you just help us understand what are some of the barriers that you see affecting our communities, and ultimately what can we at the city level do to assist you in addressing those barriers?
Sure, no problem. So the first thing I want to say, I think there was a question about summer youth employment, right? Summer learn and earn, and the impact that wages have on communities. So in any community that we work in, or any community across the United States, if the community don't have livable wages and the people in that community don't have livable wages, then they can't be successful, or the community can't thrive, I should say that. There was a study in 2018 that showed 84% of Black women are the breadwinners of their home. But then at the same time, those 84% of Black women make 61 cents for every dollar the white man makes, right? So if there are barriers you were talking about, I think we have to figure out what can we do to change our own systems. How do we create policies that allow for one, flexibility, especially for those parents, especially now in the time of the pandemic. But I will say, I think a lot of the barriers that we see, Councilman Lavelle, is the transportation, the driver's license, child care, the exposure to the actual opportunity. I think when you look at the unions, correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, but I think from an African-American rate on the construction side, you're talking about African-Americans getting in at less than 8%. So those are things that we have to try to figure out what can we do in order to mitigate them, and then create the opportunities that will help individuals be successful. And then there was another question that you had asked. What can we do?
Yeah, what can we do as legislators at the city level to assist you in addressing those barriers?
So for starters, I think one thing that we all should do, not just you as legislators at the city level, is to look at our own non-discrimination policies. But I think the city can help identify ways of enforcing those policies and making sure those laws are represented in a way that is going to help individuals get access to opportunities. So that's the first piece. I think the second piece is identifying opportunities for those workers who are typically looked over. Create opportunities for those Black and brown individuals to get into leadership positions. I think that's really, really important as well. And when I say leadership positions, I'm not looking at it from bringing somebody new in who is already a part of the organization that can step in and take a leadership position that's a minority and be successful within that space. So I think those are definitely two things that the city can do, as well as help engaging employers, right? I think the city, at the end of the day, the city, the county, there's some stake in the game, for you all, especially as representatives of the city. So how do we engage those employers to help get them to start thinking about their processes a little different? And I think that's something that, you as countymen can actually help us do. So
I have a question for all of you. And this is something a good friend of the shows and of our work is Fred Brown. And Fred says that over the next 10, 20 years, jobs won't be the problem, that we're going to have an abundance of jobs in the region. The question is whether Black people will have the skill level in order to obtain the jobs. And then many of them won't require college. Now, that's what he's been preaching this to us now for a good 5, 6, 7 years. And so from your own perspectives, talk to me, is that true? Tell me about that.
So I guess I'll start and say yes. I think we've been hearing that for a very long time. I think Allegheny County did a reflection report, and I think it was within that report. But so I would say I disagree with the fact that Black people won't be capable or brown people won't be capable of the opportunities. I think what tends to happen is that the opportunities are not exposed to those Black and brown people. And then when we give the opportunities to those Black and brown people, they are not the ones giving the opportunity. So we have to try to figure out and change that narrative. I think the other aspect of it is lack of connection. So you're talking about an underrepresented community who typically won't have the social network that someone of another nationality may have. So how do we help create those connections to make sure we don't have this issue in the next 10 years? And then the last thing I would definitely say is we have to expose our young people to what the opportunities are. And I would say this as an African-American man, I came from a very small town. I had no idea what a nonprofit was. I had no idea what workforce development was. I didn't even know there was a such thing as county government. Now, isn't that funny? Or city government, which you think these are some of the things that we should learn in school. But at the same time, if we are not exposed to what these opportunities are, then we just don't know. So we can't figure out how to build the skills and create the social networks to make sure we can be successful. So that's just my own, thing as based on that question.
I want to hear all from all of you about this, about what specifically the future holds and what we have to do in order to get African American, Black and Brown people employed.
Katie, do you want to go first?
No, you can go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what immediately comes to mind is a greater attention and focus to graduating from high school and supports that we can provide to help young adults and African American young adults graduating from high school, because that high school diploma is going to be really valuable when they're competing for those higher wage positions, or even moving on to the next step in their education or training needed to move into some of those jobs.
Say more about that. One of the things I on a separate note, Councilman Lavelle and I have been having conversations about how we're having difficulty about academic achievement in school, right? And this is not unique to Pittsburgh city schools. This is across the county. Probably somewhere between 50 and 60% of the young people graduating from high school is deficient in one of the key areas, in reading, writing, math, or speaking. So that, unfortunately, we have high school graduates coming out without really having the training they need to be effective in the workplace. Has that been your experience, or?
Right. I think you're absolutely right about that. And honestly, it's really a circular issue. We have to look at it as a 2-generational problem, where if someone's parents at home aren't making a living wage and wages aren't changing, we know that the minimum wage in Pennsylvania has been $7.25 since I graduated high school in 2006. It's insane. It has not grown with inflation, and that creates some serious problems that family is working through on a daily basis that are really impacting that child's education and educational attainment, and what they even see as possible. Like what Marquis said about exposure is really important. So I think, opportunities for work like Dr. Barger makes possible are important, but it really does have to be a 2-generation approach. So I think if at the city level, whatever you can do to advocate for raising wages, looking at the living wage as being higher than $15 an hour, looking at access to healthcare and other essential benefits that are often not seen in some of our pocket communities. Pittsburgh is really a city of neighborhoods. And I think some of those neighborhoods tend to fare a lot better than others.
Dr. Riddle, what do we do?
Well, going back to your original question, I came from industry, and I mean, mostly it was the construction industry, but everywhere I've gone, I have found that employers don't know what resources are available. Part of why I wanted to work at Partner for Work was because I had discovered these resources that were available, and I felt like it was so untapped. It's crazy to me that, so many people are creating a new training program, month after month, and it's recreating something that's already existing within the same county. And employers are saying, I can't find anyone, there's no one with any skill. And I know that our workforce board and their engaged employers are training people. They have schools that are doing this work, and it's actually being done, but the employers don't know how to engage with the training, with the education providers, with the people who are going to PA CareerLink and saying, I'm unemployed, I want to learn, and they're being funded by the state to learn skills, but the employers aren't engaging. I found the same thing was happening in high schools while I was doing research, that the students are all interested in a career. They are all showing up to school and learning the skills, but the employers weren't there to tell the students what's available once they graduate. And the ones that did show up, every student said, I'm going to that employer, and they can only take so many people, right? So if you have a whole classroom and a whole career and tech school filled with students who think they're going into a union construction job of the one employer that visited, yeah, they are going to be sadly mistaken when there aren't enough spots, but that doesn't mean there aren't enough jobs. So anything that council can do to help engage employers more in the workforce system in general would be extremely beneficial in helping us place people in jobs and create training with providers that is actually going to lead to a career path. And that is our overall goal at Partner for Work.
Dr. Barger, I do want to suggest, I use this to tell, sometimes I tell some of my, I'm again older, so I've had all these experience in life. One of the saddest things that happened to me when I first ran for council, I met a young man who was, I knew the family. He was actually, doing illegal things. And I said to him, you need to stop doing this. It's not healthy for you. It's dangerous for your family. And he said to me, he said, okay, Reverend. He said, I dropped out of school. If you can give me a job that I can take care of my family, I'll stop doing this. But if you can't give me a job that, I can take care of my family, I'm going to do what I have to do. And it was heartbreaking, and because I had no answer for him. And so, Doctor, what do we do? Tell me how we're making sure that these young people that are in the Learn and Earn program, how they're getting those professional skills needed for the workplace and give them hope.
First, I would say that I second what my colleagues have all said. I'm in total agreement. I love a word that Katrina used, and that's circular. It is not a one answer to everything, but every area needs to be covered. And so when we talk about young adults and for our youth and preparing them in schools, there needs to be a connection with the schools and the Workforce Development Board, the schools and the city, the mayor's office, the county's executive's office. There needs to be connections, conversations happening so that young people are supported, but not only young people, but their parents are supported. A lot of times we find in our work with our out of school youth, that young adults are having, or young people are having to leave school because they have to support their families and provide a level of assistance to their families. Should they have to do that? Why are they still doing that in 2001? What conversations do we need to be having? What do we need to be changing? What linkages do we need to be, what civil service policy do we need to look at? So if there can be better pipelines and linkages from a CTE program into city jobs or into county jobs or into apprenticeship programs, what is it that we're missing that we need to go back and take a look at and make some adjustments and changes? It is sad to know, again, and it's not something new, Councilman Burgess, quick money is easy and it takes care and pays the bills. Those same skills, you can be an entrepreneur, absolutely. However, it's going to take a little bit more time. And if you don't have the support, and if you don't have the encouragement, if you don't have the linkages, the Learn and Earn program is creating the linkages for the youth. And we're really trying our best to create those linkages even more so with the corporate internship program. However, those linkages go beyond the Learn and Earn program, and it needs to be across the board. And so how are we roping all of these systems together? How are we linking them all together and looking beyond differences and looking beyond funding streams and things of that nature, and looking at how do we break down even the barriers in the conversations like this only in the boardroom so that these linkages can be created.
So I want to bring Micah Smith onto the show. She's been monitoring the questions in the chat, and she said there's been a flurry of questions in the chat. So I want to give her a chance for those watching to have their questions answered.
Yeah, we have a really active section tonight. I'll just get right into it. How has the city cultivated new relationships with places like Google and Facebook to help teach, train, and employ residents in under-resourced communities?
Good question.
Yeah,
I know that those partnerships and conversations definitely have been taking place. since Google came to Pittsburgh, as well as Amazon and things of that nature. Between Partner for Work and Allegheny Conference, we're constantly in conversation, creating linkages and creating ways for the tech sector to be built up. I know for Partner for Work, we have an industry partnership team that is constantly in conversation with major corporations around the city of Pittsburgh, the banking industry, and trying as quickly as we can, but as strategically as we can to create those opportunities.
Is there an update on Partner for Work's stance on getting Learn and Earn to be year-long versus summer youth employment?
So that conversation is a higher conversation than Partner for Work. Our funding is a federally funded program, and so a lot of it is regulated by that. And when we have money that extends beyond the summer, then we'll definitely be able to offer that. What we're trying our best to do now, and is the reason for my particular role, is creating those linkages that we can through the existing programming. And so right now, what we do offer for the Learn to Earn youth is primarily the 22 providers or so that we engage with for the summer, who are the employers of record, also run year-round programming. So they're engaging youth year-round. And so those opportunities are presented to all of the young people who have completed an application, even started an application, that are in our application system, so that them and their parents can connect to programs year-round. Are those programs necessarily paid like they are in the summer? No. However, that training, that skills training, continues throughout the year.
Micah, I do think to add that the Learn and Earn program has already expanded from its original concept. The original concept was kids 14 to 18, right, with paid internships. But then we expanded from, I think it's 14 to 22 now, and 24. So we have 24 now, and so we have this newer section where we have older young adults that are now part of the summer Learn and Earn program. We would like to, unfortunately, we do not have the resources yet, but if we had the resources, we would absolutely and continue to engage them in employment during the year. That would probably, we would need another significant amount of money, probably $4 or $5 million to do it. But we will continue to advocate for it. And as Doc said, we will link them to existing programs so that they continue to be engaged year-round with activities, because our young people need activities, not just sports activities, but also recreation activities, but also supplemental academic activities and exploratory activities, and all those other things that will help them become gainfully employed at some point later in their life.
So Dr. Barger, you also mentioned something that leads to the next question, which was, when a young person becomes a student in your program, does Partner for Work track their trajectory or connect them to new opportunities for following years to keep increasing their skill sets?
So certainly young adults that apply for the general program, which is 14 to 21, they're eligible once they have work experience to apply for the corporate internship program. So I would say that that's the first way that we make connections from year to year. They're not, employed for one summer and then you can't be employed for the next summer. We encourage them to continue with the program. A lot of our providers or the majority of our providers are working really hard to create those differences in experience for those young adults who are 17 to 21, so that they're kind of getting that next level experience. We're trying to build upon their skills every summer. And even if you're in the same opportunity or with the same work experience, exposing you to more and more each summer, we try our best to do. And then, like I previously mentioned, we connect them with programs that are taking place post the summer. In the corporate internship program, we do have conversations with employers about considering the opportunity of offering a full or part-time position for young adults who are in a position to do so. The majority of our young adults are coming from institutions of higher learning all across the United States and coming back home for the summer. But we do have those youth who are considered to be our out-of-school youth, who, when we have the opportunities to offer to them full-time employment post the program, we try our best to make those linkages.
Great. And I'm going to combine two questions that I think are really related, which is how are young people made aware of the opportunities, especially people without full access to technology? And does Partner for Work have existing relationships with universities and school districts?
Absolutely. So let me answer the first question. We procure what are called application support centers every year. Those are businesses. Some of them are also our employers of record that want to be connected to the youth every year that they work with. And that kind of answers another question that you asked me too regarding retention. A lot of the youth who are employed by particular employers, our employers of record or our providers, they stay with those young people and they engage them again in the new summer. But the application support centers are our mobile support systems. And so they're going into the schools, they're engaging with the schools and getting youth and families connected to the application. The internal Partner for Work Learn and Earn team also does pop-up events and things of that nature to cover areas that may be high target areas where we want to make sure there's a presence there. We try to place ourselves there so that there is connection to the application for those young adults. And we go and we personally sit down with families and youth to make sure they get connected to the application. They know what they need. Our website is power-packed with information regarding Learn and Earn. It's power-packed with explanations of everything that's needed for the application to ensure that young adults can be connected. And then again, our providers stay connected with school districts. One provider that comes to mind is Arbley. They stay connected with school districts in their area. And every year they engage them to employ some of their own youth and through them as the employer of record so they can continue to engage year round. So we try our best. We have an outreach list. I started in 2017. It is amazing how that list has increased. And that is working with the AIU and also our outreach list that has continued to grow over the years to ensure that our outreach information, once approved, goes out blasted as far as we can. Right now, we have a 15-second and 30-second commercials running on Whammo. We know that people are working from home virtually, and they may be tuning in and getting good workday vibes and getting it from Whammo. And so Whammo is sending out those commercials and letting people know how to get connected as well. And if I could, there's a program that answers one of the questions too that you asked me as it relates to linkages. And that is a Business Education Partnership 3 grant that we are piloting with Pittsburgh Public Schools that is engaging CTE students who are primarily at Westinghouse and University Prep in a couple of CTE programs that we're engaging with, and then connecting them with employers for this first time during the summer. So they're engaging in a job readiness program. And then also in the summer, they're connecting as close as we can get them to their CTE program. They're getting that experience during the summer. Wanted to make sure I said that. Councilman Lavelle and Councilman Burgess is not Learn and Earn. However, those type of programs are innovative ways that we're also consistently thinking about, consistently looking to connect our young people as Partner for Work.
I have two quick follow-up questions. Sorry, Micah. Are you all connected to our group violence intervention program?
On my end, I'm not. I see Marquis shaking his head. I would love to be. And so definitely provide me with information and we would love to be connected. Absolutely.
Is this through Operation Better Block?
They're a component of it. Cornell Jones is the director for this initiative out of the city, but they also are working with young men and women, keeping them out of trouble, but also helping them to gain employment opportunities. And so at the point where they're working with some of our children in risk of going one of two ways, it'd be good if they could also work with you all to ensure those kids are getting opportunities. And so my second question then is, what about the jail? Is there any relationship there to be able to work with individuals who may be being released and are coming back to our society?
Yeah, I can tell you that we have, over the years, have had a number of programs working directly with people pre-release and then post-release. And right now we're rolling out a new program through a federal grant in July it's really just integrating workforce services in the jail's reentry program. So serving people that are currently incarcerated, people that have already been released to alternative housing sites on work release, and then also people who are in home confinement that are eligible to work. So connecting them to employment services to help identify job opportunities, help them get quickly employed if that's what they want, or connecting them to training programs that have employer buy-in. That's really important, as Dr. Barger said, and as Dr. Riddle said, we want to make sure that employers are valuing the trainings that we're offering, and those industry credentials are actually leading to a job at the end of it. So that is our focus at Partner for Work. We also have young adult programs for young adults who are justice involved at any point in their past. And those are actually run by our partners at Auberly Employment Institute.
I'm going to jump back in. We have a question for Dr. Riddle, I believe, talking about, I think, a statistic Marquise shared about the impact of Black women specifically in our communities. I think they were asking about a focusing training and opportunities for women in construction and technical jobs, and where those opportunities lie.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak pretty easily to the construction side of that. As far as the way things have been, right now across the United States, women only represent 9% of the construction industry, which is a pretty morbidly low percentage. In Allegheny County, our local unions have been working with Partner for Work to try to increase the amount of women and minorities who are entering apprenticeship. And they've been doing a pretty good job. I can say that over the past couple of years, they have had 11% women going through that program, which is above the national average. And we're pretty proud of being a part of that program and helping to support that. I'm speaking of Intro to the Construction Trades of the Builders Guild. So that's definitely one example of a program that we support at Partner for Work, and if you came to PA CareerLink, we would say here's an opportunity for training if you're a female interested in getting into construction. As far as other alternative careers, I know just from being on council and hearing the programs that are coming through, there are a lot of IT and advanced manufacturing programs that are becoming apprenticeshable in our area that I know will be recruiting, and all women and minorities are asked to go to Partner for Work to try to get get information about the resources that are available. So anytime a program comes through the state as an apprenticeship, we try to get involved with that employer and say, how can we help you to recruit to make sure that we are getting the word out there to a diverse population that may not even know that type of apprenticeship would exist. So any chance that we have to encourage people to engage with PA CareerLink or Partner for Work, that's how we can reach more women and minorities to go into apprenticeships, and any of the trainings that we have. And a lot of them are pre-apprenticeships that will lead to an apprenticeship that could be a great career path.
Thank you. And I think maybe a question for Marquise was getting and I think you spoke about it a little bit earlier when you talked about the barriers to employment for Black people here in Pittsburgh, but it was asking, why is getting trained and employed difficult here? There was a commenter with 6 degrees who found that finding work seemed to get harder and harder.
So I will try my best to answer that question. So I will say this, I'm not from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a place of connection. If you are connected here in Pittsburgh, then you're probably going to have a much easier time to find employment. So that's that. But then with the hint, because of the pandemic, I'm pretty sure that has even made it much, much more challenging, especially as it relates to trying to find individuals opportunities. So the one thing that I say that I think we could do better is helping build those connections for those individuals who don't currently have that. And I think that's something that we can do, not just as a workforce board, but as a community.
And I think our final question is what the linkage, it started out saying that every high school in our region should be a Partner for Work site. And what's the linkage to the Pittsburgh promise of Partner for Work? And sorry, Just one is, do the students and interns have surveys about their experiences and the culture of their workplaces for the Learn and Earn program?
Absolutely, for both. I'll answer that question first. It's the easiest. We survey our young people every year, their satisfaction surveys, pre and post surveys, to find out their satisfaction with the program. We ask them what they're interested in, and then post the program, we ask them, were you able to fulfill your interest and what you really enjoyed? And we get very good responses every year. We survey our young people with the satisfaction survey, as well as our employers and supervisors, and get their satisfaction so that we can make improvements every year with the program. And then with the Pittsburgh Promise does help us to advertise the application for the Learn and Earn program. Partner for Work is huge, and so there may be some other ways that we are connected with the Pittsburgh Promise that we may not be aware of, but certainly they do assist us with the pushing of the application every year.
Thank you. That's all the questions we've gotten from my end in the live.
Cool. Thank you very much, Micah, for helping out with that. Given that is all the time we have for today, I want to thank you all for a very well-informed conversation. It was very helpful. Specifically, I want to thank our guests, starting with Mr. Marquise Long, the Director of Outreach and Inclusion, Dr. Christine Barger, Manager of Youth Work Experience, Katrina Kataleski, I hope I got close, Director of Special Projects, and Ms. Dottie Riddle, Director of Workforce Innovation. In order to have a significant investment in the Black community, it's imperative that we continue to make our community safe and peaceful. And one way to do that is by absolutely ensuring we have fully employed individuals and families. And so we want to thank you for working with us to help rebuild our Black communities in Pittsburgh for Black people, by Black people, with our partners and allies, of which Partner for Work is clearly one.
I want to thank all of you for watching and participating with great questions in this town hall meeting. Remember, you can watch this show on Facebook, the city's YouTube channel, or the city's cable channel. A new meeting occurs every Wednesday. By working together, united in purpose, we can transform and are transforming our city, strengthening it for all of its residents. Pittsburgh is becoming a city for all by becoming a city where Black Pittsburgh matters. Good evening, stay safe, and be blessed.